Hey guys, and welcome back to Mad About Skin. In today's video, we're talking Korean sunscreens, and I want to share with you a little bit of a warning and a disclaimer when it comes to some of the best-selling Korean SPFs. I think most of us will have reached for a Korean sunscreen at some point in our skincare journey, and because of their beautifully elegant and lightweight finish, they form a core part of a lot of our skincare routines. However, some recent changes to sunscreen enforcement rules in the US have led to a lot of unintended consequences globally. This means that the Korean sunscreen that you're buying now might not be the same as the ones that you were buying previously, and we really need to talk about that. I think it's really important that as consumers, we know exactly what we're putting on our skin. So hopefully in this video, I'll be able to update and inform you guys so you can make the right decision when it comes to your own sun protection needs. Sit back, relax, let's talk a warning regarding Korean sunscreens. Now, before we get into today's video, I've just got a cheeky little favor to ask of you guys. If you could reach down and give this video a big thumbs up and a like. This is really important because this message I want to be heard loud and clear so that everyone out there can make the right decisions when it comes to their own skin. By liking any video, it helps to promote it on the YouTube platform because the more likes the video gets, the more widely YouTube will distribute it. So from the bottom of my heart, love to each and every one of you. I'd also love for you guys to share your own opinions on this topic and what's going on. So sound off in the comments section below. We really are a community here on Mad About Skin, and I love to hear from you each and every single day. Now, without further ado, let's cut that waffle and delve straight on in. So let's quickly touch on what exactly is going on in the skincare industry. Well, for years, we've always had like a two-tier sunscreen system. We had brands which formulated with the old style filters, those that were approved 30, 40 years ago. They still give adequate and reasonable sun protection, but they often come with a less elegant finish on the skin. They often don't deliver the same broad spectrum protection as some of the newer generation filters do, and people often find themselves more sensitive to these older generation filters than they do for the new ones. We then saw a transition of a lot of brands starting to formulate with these new generation filters, which often came about from the Korean skincare market and the innovation and research that Korean brands did. These newer generation filters really took over. They felt better on the skin, they were less sensitizing, irritating, and they gave a better level of protection. So for this reason, that the majority of brands now formulate with these new filters, and globally, this is now the accepted standard for sun protection. However, in the US market, regulations driven by the FDA haven't updated in decades. So as a result, these new generation filters which are used globally aren't actually acknowledged as sun filters in the US. This outdated regulation means that if you ever wanted to sell your products into the US market, you had to use the old generation filters, not the new ones. Now, for years, brands just kind of ignored this, shipped their products to the US with no issues whatsoever. However, around 4 years ago, the FDA really clamped down on this and started heavily enforcing their rules. As a result, now it's almost impossible to get the new style, new generation filters in the US the way that you could before. So a lot of people out there might be thinking, well, what does this relate to? Unless I'm living in the US, what does this actually matter to me? Well, of course, the US is a huge global market when it comes to skincare, and brands really do want to capitalize on the dollars that are there spent in the US sunscreen community. So nowadays, we tend to see brands having two different formulations of what is in effect the same product. It'll often have the same name, it'll also have the same designs, graphics, and packaging, but they'll have a US compliant version and a rest of the world newer generation version. This seems so far so good. What's to complain about? Well, the issue is that brands aren't actually segregating these two different versions and sending them to the right countries. Lots of people here in Europe, which is where I'm based, out of the UK, in the European Union also, are reporting that they're getting products which they thought were giving their newer generation lightweight finish, but actually feel completely different on application. And they read and realize that they're actually being sent the old style US compliant version, which, unless you're in the US, nobody actually wants. This is becoming a bit of a problem because it's kind of impossible to know exactly what you're buying online and what version you're going to get. Skin 1004 recently fell foul of this, and you'll see a lot of people reporting online that they're just sending out whichever version kind of suits them in the moment, and it's really difficult to know which one you're going to get. You've seen the same happen with Beauty of Joseon, and a lot of people are reporting this now happening with some of the big name brands like Purito. A lot of us will buy our Korean skincare through a third-party seller such as Yes Style or Stylevana, and again, really difficult to know what version you're actually going to get. Everyone outside of the US, well, the US also wants the new generation filters but can't access them, but everyone outside of the US just wants the new generation filters, but it's kind of a lottery as to which one you're going to get. And this does really matter for a couple of key reasons. So first and foremost, they have different ingredients. You know, people might be allergic to one set of filters, but not to another. And so they might be choosing a product that they've used successfully for years, but get the old version delivered to them, try it, and suddenly find that their skin reacts. It only takes one ingredient to have a reaction to, and so it can be really difficult to know what's actually going to work for you. Really, if you find you're getting a different version of a sunscreen that you've used successfully for years, you need to patch test it as though it's a new product. It might have the same imaging, it might have the same packaging, but you need to treat it as a new product, which people don't know to do because they don't actually know they're getting a new product at all. Secondly, they'll have different textures. The older generation filters tend to be thicker, heavier, they might have a white cast, whereas the newer generation ones don't. So again, you might be thinking you're getting this new gen filter action and you end up with a thicker, gloopier application that you're used to. That's because essentially they look the same, but they're totally different products. I think the two key issues for me though are one, they'll have a different sensitivity profile. So older generation filters tend to be more sensitizing on the skin, whereas newer generation ones aren't. Now, this isn't universal. People can react differently to different ingredients, but generally speaking, most people will tolerate new generation filters better than the old ones, particularly when it comes to watery and stinging eyes. If you're someone that has super sensitive eyes, really you want to be going for a newer generation sunscreen. You might think that's what you're buying, but the older one comes, and by the time you've applied it, it's too late, your eyes are streaming. And then finally, you get different levels of protection. So a lot of us will just look at the SPF value on a product and you think, well, if it's delivering SPF 50 plus, what does it matter whether you're getting the old generation, the new generation? Who really cares? It's the same protection. And it is when it comes to the SPF value. But what these brands don't tell you is they'll often have a different UVA level of protection. And generally speaking, newer generation filters will give a better UVA protection than the older generation ones. So as a result, you might think you're buying an SPF 50 plus, doesn't really matter what form it comes in, but you might be getting subtly different levels of UVA protection, which is just as important as the SPF, which protects against UVB rays. It's for this reason that I think it's problematic that brands are just sending out these products and it's really difficult to know exactly which form you're going to get. So my top tip to anyone shopping out there is let's make sure we can get some concrete guarantees from brands. Some brands have absolutely committed to making sure that they're going to send the newer generation filters out to every market with the exception of the US. A great example of this is K-Secret. So this is one of my favorite sunscreens. This is the K-Secret Collagen Boosting Secret Sun Lotion. If you're buying this from any country of the world outside the US, you will get the new generation filters. You'll get the old style US compliant filters if you're shopping for within the US. That makes sense. This is a brand that's committed to that integrity and transparency, and I love to see. Other brands are now coming on board with that. Purito, for example, if you buy direct from Purito, you will get the formula that best matches where in the world you happen to live. I reached out to Yes Style and Stylevarna and asked them too about how they're going to approach this. And Yes Style did come back to me to say, if you've got any questions, consumers can absolutely contact their customer service and they'll be transparent with what version you're going to get. So that gives you a little bit of extra protection. Still waiting for a response from Stylevarna, but as soon as I get that, I'll update you guys. So my reason for filming this video wasn't to terrify or to scare anyone. It doesn't matter whether you're using newer generation or old generation filters, they will give you sun protection, but it's to issue a warning to say to people that if you're slapping on your favorite Korean sunscreen and it doesn't feel the same as it used to, maybe it's heavier, maybe it's thicker, maybe our eyes are watering in a way that they weren't before, it's not actually down to the product itself, it's just a different version that you might have bought. I do hope in the next year that brands will really make this easy for us, the consumer, and start to have different packaging for their different versions. At the moment, they all look the same, so it's impossible to know what you're buying. Different packaging for the old generation filters, the US compliant ones, and the newer generation ones will allow us to know exactly what we're purchasing and putting on our skin. So this is a little bit of a public service announcement to the Korean sunscreen brands out there. If you're watching, make it easy for us. Come with different packaging. This isn't necessarily the issue with the brands themselves, it's the outdated FDA regulations, which is always going to be an issue because I don't think they're going to update things anytime soon. But just know that if you're a US consumer, you can still get your hands on some of these newer generation filters if you buy direct from some smaller brands. For example, whilst it's out of stock at the moment, coming back in the next couple of weeks, I use newer generation filters in my own Mad About Skin sunscreen, and we do ship to the US no problem at all. It won't be able to be sold in physical retailers in the US because it doesn't use those old generation filters the FDA needs, but it can still be shipped direct to you. So there are smaller brands which will still provide elegant, lightweight, new generation sunscreen technology to the US consumers. You just have to shop around to find them. This will be back in the next couple of weeks. And if you did want to be added to the waitlist for it, just drop us an email using the contact us section of the website and I can add you to the waitlist so you're the first in the know when it does launch. I still love my Korean sunscreens. I just want to make sure I'm getting the version that works best for me. And hopefully this video helps you navigate your way through the minefield that is the sunscreen industry. Wherever you are in the world, guys, stay safe, stay well, and love your skin. Take care. Bye.